Hello and welcome to another episode of the Language Hacking Podcast. I'm your host, Benny Lewis, and today I'm doing another standalone Ask Benny episode. So, I want to cover the topic of language exchange events. So, the question definitely comes in for how do they work or what do I do? And I've just attended a bunch of these while I was in Brazil. They happen to be run by the MundoLingo company. You may find some that are independently run, but the MundoLingo events are the widest covered in a lot of places. Like they're in Argentina, they're in here in Brazil, they're in multiple European countries, and I know they're trying to kick them off in other places. I know they're in Montreal in Canada. So you'll find the events run by some companies, but if you just search for language exchange events on Facebook or on Eventbrite or Meetup, you might find one in your city and it would be worth going to. For the MundoLingo events, fortunately, they happen to have uh, flag stickers that they give you whenever you arrive. So the process is you arrive and you say which language or languages you'd like to practice, and of course, what your native tongue is. And you put the flags for your native tongue and your target language or languages on your chest, and they're just stickers that go there. And then you walk into the event. And now I understand if you are an introverted person, this may feel intimidating, but keep in mind anyone going to this event is going there to speak with people, is going there to practice languages. So this is not the same as walking up to somebody on the street or walking to someone in a bar and trying to make a new friend with a complete stranger like that, where you don't have any context and you don't know if they're going to be frustrated with you or turn you down or something. This is not like that. This is an event where people go to expect to talk to strangers. So, in this kind of event, if you are someone outgoing, you do try to take the initiative, and otherwise, you can try to look like you're eager to talk to people. So, make sure you're facing outwards and looking at people as they're coming in, and you'll find people they want to approach those that they don't know yet, especially if they see a flag that shows that they're ready to speak these languages. Some events work differently and they take a bit of the social pressure off by actually assigning you to tables. So you might go to the Spanish speaking table, you might go to the French speaking table, or everybody may already be sitting down and you just join the event people, and you say I'm here for the language exchange event, and you get to talk to them in that way. So the level of organization is completely different for different events. Some you do have to potentially approach people, others you just join the group at large and find the right person you want to practice your language with, and then you start talking. And it doesn't matter what your level is. You don't go to these events, you don't put the flags on with the understanding that you have mastered these languages. You go in knowing these are your weak languages as well, that it's okay to practice. And I put flags for all of the languages I knew I could have at least a basic conversation in. And this meant that even the languages I had not practiced in a very long time, I had opportunities to speak them, because this is what these events are there for, to make sure I'm not losing that momentum and I do have a chance to practice these languages. So don't feel like you can only do this if you are an advanced level speaker of the language. People go to these events to practice regardless of what their level is. And if you're a beginner, then this is one of the best places to practice that language, because people have certain flexibilities and you don't necessarily end up speaking to other native speakers. I've practiced multiple languages with other learners of the same language. And especially if you're in a less international city, most people at the event may be the same mother tongue as you, but you can still practice the target language with them. So yeah, you get started, you talk to the people, and ideally you make a new friend or two, and you could exchange contact details and hang out with them outside of the event. But I highly recommend these. I used to do these all the time. I used to organize a bunch of these when I was in places like Berlin. and it was so much fun. I When I organized them, I did myself. I took on the role of meeting people at the entrance, asking them what language they were learning, and directing them to a particular table based on the language that they could practice. And by being the person who greeted them at the door, I got to meet every single person. So by the time the party was filling up or the event was filling up, I knew who I could practice languages with. So I took a little bit of that extra initiative, and it worked out well for me. That it was easier for me to approach people because they had already spoken to me, albeit briefly, as they were coming in. And it's great when it's organized by somebody else. It takes a lot of the pressure off you, that you just have to show up and practice your language. Usually these are free. The event may prefer that you buy a drink or buy a snack or something to make sure that you're covering your place there. But in general, you don't have to pay for them. And now that the pandemic is hopefully winding up, you're going to start seeing them more and more in a lot of places. So I highly recommend them. I had so much fun at the language events that I went to in Brazil, in Rio especially. And I look forward to going to many, many more in the future. And if you look up some pictures of me on social media, you can see I actually can proudly say I got a really fun new nickname while I was in Rio of Military General Lewis. I really love that because I had so many flags on my chest for all the languages I wanted to practice that I looked like a highly decorated military officer. So that was my nickname at the language exchange events, Military General Lewis. Now, obviously, you don't need to be a polyglot. You don't need to speak a bunch of languages. You go to these even if there's just the one language you want to practice, and they are so much fun. You have people who are not going to judge you, and they're also there to practice and to get to know new people. So I highly recommend it. Just do a search for language exchange in your local city and see what comes up, and you may be surprised. So that's my tip for you. And if you do end up going to language exchange events, hit me up on social media. I'm Irish Polyglot or Language Hacking on Instagram, and Irish Polyglot on pretty much every other platform. And then, of course, I have my non-English accounts that you can look into. Um, but yeah, definitely let me know. I'd love to hear your stories of going to language exchange events, and I will keep you guys updated on how my future language exchange events go. And I'll always share fun stories and updates on my own social media to encourage you to do something similar yourself. So, yep, I hope you found that useful. And until the next time, I'll wish you a very happy language learning.